Today, I chat to one of the most inspiring lodge founders and owners in Africa. Fabia took over a desolate hunting concession in northern Tanzania and has turned it into a thriving wildlife corridor, setting the standard for wildlife conservation across Africa. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Stanley Safaris Podcast, where we chat to the owners and the founders of the camps and lodges that we love sending our guests to. Today, I'm joined by Fabia, the founder and owner of Chem Chem Lodges in Tanzania. Fabia, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to see you again. The last time I think was under the baobab tree at Forest Chem Chem a few years back. It's really good to see you again, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for inviting me, Sean.
No.
I appreciate it. And since then, we had quite a nice establishment of our relationship. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, anytime. We love sending our guests to Chem Chem. I loved my time there. I've had Ingrid go and stay there as well, and she also fell in love with it. And I just think your whole ethos of the slow safari, the giving back aspect, all of that is hugely important. And we'll get into that, in the conversation. But obviously, Fabia, you're not from Africa. You are Swiss, if I remember correctly. You're currently sitting in Switzerland. How on earth did you go from where you are now to starting a safari lodge in Tanzania?
Yes, you're right. I'm Swiss. I'm 100% Swiss. And I think that helped me, giving me good routes to fly far and high. And I think that is what I appreciate coming from. I always was attracted by nature. I think growing up in Switzerland, you're exposed to nature quite a bit. You hike in the summer, you ski in the winter. So childhood in Switzerland is very much engaged in nature activities. Africa, it was never really on my radar. But after my career in banking, when I met Nicola, my partner, he had the idea, he's French, so he had the idea about creating a wildlife conservation project in Tanzania. He has been there prior about 10 years, but none of our families live or are from or in Africa. And that was 2005. And sometimes in life, I don't know, you don't think too much. You're naive. You think the world is open and you grab it. And I think that's what we did. And out of a project on paper, now we have these 3 lodges and we give jobs to 250 people within Chem Chem. And we reopened a wildlife corridor that was decided to be extinct in 2009, and now it's the blueprint of corridors in Tanzania.
Yeah, amazing. So prior to Chem Chem, you had never been to Africa, and so
I've been.
Okay, yeah.
No, I've been, and I've been on safari, and I didn't like it at all.
Okay, why?
It was like this because it was overly curated. It felt like an English boarding school. Yeah. I had absolutely no freedom to do what I want during my vacation. I was staying in these amazing, beautiful lodges, but I had to get up at whatever 5:30. I had to go on the game drive. They put me in a car with whatever 7 other people. Everybody pointed out the line together. You had to be quiet. You had a guide who felt he's next to God, so you had to worship him. And the only thing, you always were stuck with these people. They might be nice, but I didn't go on safari to find friends. I traveled there with my partner, and I was in investment banking, so I was very busy. I had very limited time off. And it was for me sitting in the car, listening to that guide. It felt like a science class. And it had absolutely no connection with nature than what I experienced when I did my hikes in Latin America, the trekking in Asia, in Switzerland, where you're still and you sit and you're there and you walk and you actually connect.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I've done it, seen it, whatever. A lion is a lion. Seen it once, it's going to be a lion tomorrow. So, and the food was not good, and I stayed in nice places. It was equivalent to what the level what we built with Chem Chem, but yeah, it was definitely not my thing. So when Africa popped up again, I was more excited about the adventure and doing something in nature, but just sitting in a car for 8 hours, where I come from, we call that traffic, but we don't actually pay $2,000 a day to sit in a car.
Yeah,
So
and that's a very good point. And what a lot of people don't realize is it's tiring going on safari. It's tiring sitting in a vehicle every morning, every afternoon, and copy every single day. And that's why when we chat to our guests, we try and get them into this idea of walking safaris, immersive cultural experiences, and other aspects of being in Africa. And I think you've done it exceptionally well at Chem Chem, in terms of the slow safari, the silent safari, having the private vehicle and the flexibility to do your own trip. As you say, it's your holiday. And I think when we were chatting at Forest Chem Chem that night that you joined us for dinner, and you said the same thing about the boarding school and the schedule and everything else like that. So you've obviously taken that negative experience, twisted it around to create the positive experience that you offer at Chem Chem. So well done.
Yes, thank you. Well, I've never been in hotel business. I didn't study hospitality. So the only experience I bring onto the table is my own experience as a guest. And I think a lot of things we do in Chem Chem comes out of that, on how I would like to be treated and how what I would like to do. And I think especially the flexibility. I love to wake up early and see the sunrise, but it's not everybody. And other people, they love to go out 5 times a day in that vehicle and stick to it. And after dinner, they want to go again out. So they should do. It's their time. We are, for a very little time, custodian of our guests' time. And that's the most precious they give to us. So it's not on me telling them what to do, but actually adapting to how they feel, what they want to do, and be as flexible as possible to actually make this 3, 4, 5 days a real little bubble where they can recharge and fully immerse in the beauty of the wilderness. And you cannot do that if you're on a schedule.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. 100%. Well done. Fantastic. Now, going back to the beginning, when you had this proposal of creating this corridor and the Chem Chem concession effectively was presented to you, it was a hunting concession at that time. I think it still is, and we can chat through that in a second. And that obviously you don't do any hunting there at all. And I've seen pictures of when you first started, and that area in front of where Chem Chem Lodge now was almost a dust bowl. There was very little vegetation around. And when you look at that versus where it is now, how did you go in there with a vision to go, okay, yes, let's take this on and transform this? Where did that come from?
I have no idea. I was like, well, Nicola went to the village, he talked to the people, they said him, well, 40 years ago, we had elephants here. I was like, okay, so then, okay, let's do it. And I probably, because I didn't had any experience, probably I was not demoralized by all the other wildlife conservation people who often are very negative and in the end don't do nothing because out of the negative mindset. And I think we had no idea about this wildlife corridor when we started in the beginning. We had no idea how long it will take to settle with these 10 villages. This is an ongoing relationship. We never will end having discussion with them. I think we were learning by doing and adapting and taking time, not rushing, because we also couldn't, because our means were limited, so we had to go slowly, step by step. And then one of unfolds after the other, and we had big successes. We had step backs like everybody else. That's normal. But I think deep inside us, we never questioned.
Yeah.
And in one stage, there was no other option than succeeding.
Yeah.
So yes, when we look today compared to 20 years ago when we arrived, and there were 60,000 cows illegally grazing and donkeys and all this thing, and animals getting poached annually, monthly, and what we have achieved now and recognized by the government now to be the blueprint for corridor recovery. I think it's a big step, and it shows if Nicola and I, we can do it. Everybody can do it. We are not specialists. We are not billionaires. But you need to be committed, focused, and you never make a compromise.
Yeah. No, definitely. So talk us through the community aspect. You've touched on these 10 villages that you're continuously working with. Talk us through the commitment that Chem Chem has with these communities and the conservation aspect as well. It's a big part of who you are. So yeah, it's an important for our guests to know that when they're coming and staying there, they are directly contributing towards these positive aspects.
The land belongs to a confederation of 10 villages, and we lease that from them. And through that, we have a very strong engagement with all the villages. We have not just obligation in concession fees, but also in educating the people, supporting wildlife conservation, supporting anti-poaching. So there's a lot that comes along besides just the lease fee that we pay on a yearly base. We have created or we focus mainly on the pillar of education and economical empowerment that starts right away in kindergarten, goes through primary school, where we do small day trips, take the kids into our concession, have engaged with specialized conservation education organizations. They come in and educate the kids on that. That's all in partnership with the government, because in our area there are only public schools, which I'm a big defender and supporter as well. Then when they go into secondary school, we take them on a 4-day trip to see actually their country. I think it's unfair that only the visitors from abroad can go and discover the Ngorongoro crater and the Serengeti. So we get 3 or 4 of the Land Rover trucks, set them in there, and off they go, and they drive up and they camp and they sleep in little hostels, and it's absolutely amazing. And I think these kids have never probably left more or less their surroundings, never been exposed to tourist facilities. And I'm sure nobody of us really understand what shifts in their mind. And I'm definitely convinced that this is one of the best tools to use to send the kids to widen their horizon. So that's amazing. And then we started an economical youth empowerment program, the same we do for adults. We started first with this women economical empowerment, which includes men as well. I always feel it has to be equal, but women just appear to be more interested in such programs. Over the last 4 years, we created more than 2,900 new companies. They were trained in 4 different areas. We made an assessment which kind of businesses make sense in our area, mainly focused on agriculture. It's beekeeping, it's poultry, it's sunflowers, and it's a special way of vegetable farming. So they get trained in first saving money, then they make a business plan, they open bank accounts, then they have to write, as I said, the business plan, then they can get a loan for free from their own community bank. And so slowly but surely they can buy the first 5 chicken, etc., etc. We trained 3,000 people, 2,900 opened their own successful business. We increased monthly income by 150%.
Sure.
And this now goes into this, we're now starting the second program, doing the same. And out of these 2,900, the 100 most motivated ones, they can have a further training where they finally can get proper access to microcredit, because it's nice to have 10 chicken, maybe 20 chicken, but you kind of you remain very vulnerable to whatever comes and steals or eat your chicken. So the scaling up now is the idea for the 100. They had to also write another business plan, talk to our banks and all that. And I think this is very, very successful. We're doing the same for the youth. These are kids between 16 to 18. While in school, they learn also what it means to open an own business, what it means to cooperate together, to create a company together, mainly focus not on agriculture, because agriculture, there's only that much land. It's already quite overpopulated. And these kids, they need to have something as a tool that they can leave home, go somewhere else, in the next bigger village or in the next city or town, not city, town, and maybe work in something more like admin or in the bank, or even opening up their own shop for trading, whatever. And I think it's the first year has been very successful. The kids love it, and it's a 4-year program with very highly successes. So I'm excited about that.
I love that. I love that it's not handouts. It's empowering the people to improve and a long-term project rather than relying on handouts, which is fantastic. And I love the idea of taking the kids out and going and seeing all these amazing places. I don't know anybody else that is doing that, and I think it must be so rewarding seeing them out of their village environment and going and experiencing these amazing places, as you say, where the tourists are coming and going and seeing their own country. Amazing. That's phenomenal. And talk us through the concession, because I think if I remember correctly, the concession that you're on is a hunting, or it's gazetted as a hunting concession. Is that correct? You, as I said, obviously you're not doing any hunting. It's completely 100% conservation. The wildlife is moved back in huge numbers. You've got amazing big tusker elephants coming through. I think you guys are famous for that. You're famous for your big numbers of giraffe and other wildlife as well, which is now moved back in a lot more relaxed and comfortable around people and vehicles. But talk us through that hunting concession and what you guys have to do in order to keep the concession going.
In Tanzania, beside the national parks, there is another about 2/3 of the rest of 2/3 of all protected areas in Tanzania are hunting concessions, and hunting concessions were mainly created as buffer zones between the national park and the civilization. That's where it comes from. And our concession we have is bordering the Tarangire National Park, and it's gazetted as a hunting concession. However, we managed to be able to not hunt anymore legally. It is also actually too small to hunt, so that's helped us also vis-a-vis the government. We are not going into pro or against hunting, but for Tanzania, hunting still is important. It's regulated, and we never should forget it's not just the money, but it's also the meat many of these people rely on. At Chem Chem, we believe, being so close to such a strongly animal populated area like Tarangire National Park, there's not even a discussion about that. So we are able, by paying a much higher rate to the government, to substitute that. And therefore the hunting stopped when we took over in 2013, and since then we were very lucky that no elephant was killed, nor poached, nor anything, so that's very nice. However, I think a big misunderstanding is that poaching is about responsible for 95% of the killing of the animals and not hunting. So it's the poachers, the illegal, the bushmeat mafia, all these people who illegally come in and kill animals. And that's what we fight now with our anti-poaching units in combination with the government. Since you were here, we had a massive milestone. We are the first company in Tanzania who created a joint monitoring and protection center, which operates fully on software that integrates all data, that collects data all over the area. We are the first one who we created the software in combination with the Tanzanian government. And that software now is used in many other national parks as well. We're rolling it out in the Serengeti. We're partnering with other big private conservation investors like the Fritten Conservation Fund and the Grumeti Fund. And I think this is now something that brings wildlife conservation and human wildlife conflict to a new level. They have been testing drones on Western Kilimanjaro. We are trying to get drones in as well. We have rapid response team. We have an emergency hotline that the villagers can call us if they have attacks from lions. All the data is going through the software. It goes into all different ministries. And what we're seeing with that is not just that we gather way better, way more information, but that we have managed to collaborate with the government and the private sector so that we together have a vision how we can run now all these challenges of poaching, but also of human wildlife conflict, because in Tanzania there's no fencing or very little fencing.
Yeah. And when I was at Chem Chem, we did that hike, that sunrise hike up the hill, and from that perspective, you get to see the amazing corridor that you've created there, and just how close the villages and that are on either side, and that importance of those wildlife corridors, and as you said earlier, your model has been taken to government now and implemented across Tanzania. What is the importance of that corridor? Why are these wildlife corridors so important?
Tarangire is a national park in Tanzania where you have the highest number of elephants. And Tarangire is a standalone island who does not really connect to another ecosystem. It had in the past, through the migration that would go to Lake Natron up to the crater, and also towards Lake Manyara over the lake, then up through the Manyara National Park to the crater, to the Serengeti. And because of the fast growing population, these corridors have been interrupted by civilization. And if Tarangire loses the connection to any other ecosystem, the habitat would be in massive danger, and therefore ecosystem connections through corridors are essential if we want to have a diversity and a habitat that is healthy.
Yeah. Okay, so it's recreating those ancient corridors, movement of wildlife naturally.
Keep them alive. Yes.
Keep them alive. Yeah, perfect, great. And so, Fabia, you've got 3 properties on Chem Chem. You have Chem Chem Lodge, you have Little Chem Chem, my favorite, and then you have Forest Chem Chem. Talk us through the differences between the 3 different camps.
Chem Chem Lodge is lies on the side of Lake Manyara, where you have kind of islands of palm trees, which is very unusual in the middle of a country in Tanzania. So it's a very peaceful area where you look onto Lake Manyara and then into the Rift Valley, where the crater and then the Serengeti starts. That's the first property where we opened up, and it has a very, very special energy, I think. So that's where you can do amazing nature walks with your private guide and your Maasai warrior. You can do our silent walk, where people walk for half an hour, 45 minutes in silence, and then break silence by a special tea ceremony. We have, you can go running with the Maasai, also for the active people.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a place where I think it's an amazing time to wind down after you had the wild of the Serengeti or wherever you were before. Then you cross over in the corridor to Little Chem Chem and Forest Chem Chem, which are on the side where the concession borders Tarangire National Parks filled with baobab trees, where it's a more traditional way of safari. I would say that you are way more in your car, and there you probably experience the biggest tusker in big numbers that nowhere else you can be encountered. The elephants are extremely calm, extremely. We live in harmony with them, I must say. So at Little Chem Chem, I think it overlooks Lake Burungi, and I think it is a place also where, when you want to start the safari and you're very nervous to see immediately a lot of game, it's a very good place, because it's only about 25 or not even 20 minutes flight from Arusha, so you don't lose another day traveling far, but you just jump right into the wilderness. And then we have Forest, which is an exclusive use camp, where I think for families or group of friends, it gives you all the freedom to really feel that it's yours, the wilderness, for a small time. And that's the 3 properties.
Yeah.
And we do in both, all the properties, we have options to also do visits of our 2 major tribes that we are working with, the Maasai and the Babaik. And we do also some visits of our projects. If requested, we have a special safari package that offers that.
So I was going to get into the cultural aspect, and when we're talking to a lot of guests and we start talking about cultural experiences, people go, no, I'm not interested in seeing that, and it's a show and it's a song and dance, and they're going to try and sell me things, and so that's not our style, and 100% not your style. So talk us through the cultural experience. And I remember we did both when we were there. What I loved about particularly the Maasai experience was, we went into the chief's hut, and he was asking us as many questions as we were asking him. So I felt very, very much a two-way interaction, which is phenomenal. But yeah, talk us through that cultural experience, in the sense that it's not a tourist show; it's the real thing.
No, I'm the first one who also says, no, I don't want to, if it's too intimate, it's not a circus. So it's more an exchange, as you just described, of meeting these local people who live in the area, who also are in a complete change of where they're going, because they've never in such a short time had to adapting to so many new lifestyle. And I think when we visit these 2 different tribes, it is for they at the moment don't have the means to travel. They will not have the means to travel overseas. So talking to us and seeing families arriving with small children, and these kids are already exposed to all that, it gives them an opportunity to understand what they maybe just see on the mobile phones or whatever, but it's real, it's tangible. They can talk to us. They figure out that there are similar problems all over. And it's a way that the world comes to them, And I always think it's very nice and it's very lighthearted. And Chirocco, the chief, he is so, and he is proud, and he is proud of his life, and he's proud of his values, and he is not seeing in us something he really wants to become, but he just thinks it's interesting to have that exposure. And I believe done carefully, softly, and tenderly, these visits can be a win-win for both sides.
Agreed. Yeah. No, I agree. And that's exactly how I felt when we were with you guys and went to go and see them and meet them. So this isn't it's not a bus tour. It's not buses of tourists moving through and coming and interrupting. It is a very personal experience, and I love that aspect of it. Something that you've always pushed, it's always been something in your marketing, it's something that you deliver on the ground, is this slow safari. And it goes back to, not having the schedules and not having to wake up at 5:30 and you're going to be doing this, then you're going to get back and, your whole day is planned out. It's been quite a long journey, I think, and you've stuck to it. And we love that aspect of it. We love guests doing 3 or 4 nights or more if they can at each property, just to really get into the property, get to know the team, get to know the staff, get to know the area. So talk us through that vision of the slow safari.
Yeah, it became quite a trendy word at the moment. When I started it, everybody laughed at me, and I got quite a lot of criticism. And now I see it popping up right, left, and center. So I'm rather a trendsetter than a follower. So we are very happy to see that. But it needs more than just putting slow safari on your website, that you really truly live what slow safari means. Because as I said, for me, the mystic in nature is something we have detached ourselves too much. And I believe we're running to all these longevity clinics, we're taking all these supplements, we're doing mindfulness, yoga and all that, which is definitely fantastic and it has its place. However, I think if we are not connected with Mother Nature and we don't let that energy flow through us, we lose something essential. And coming on safari, I believe there is nowhere else a place where animals and nature are in such big numbers still united, and that this different living creatures all living together, I just feel that carries a special way of comfort, because there's a balance. They all live together. And I think for us, taking a moment to just breathe and be there and be happy and giggle or be silent and maybe we find a moment to trust our dreams again. Maybe we realize that actually, we have the courage to do something where we had too much doubt or too much questions. And that's why I believe the slow safari should give everybody the time and the access, the speed, that it's what you actually need yourself. And that's the essence, is that we give you a surrounding where you start listening to your little inner voice again.
No, I love that. I've always loved that aspect. And as I said, we've tried and encourage our guests to spend as much time. And we're finding that more and more people are coming through going, I don't want to bounce around and go from place to place. I want to spend time at each property and get to know that area and reflect, as you say. But also, everybody in this day and age, we're living such a fast-paced life wherever it is in the world we're living. And then you're going on safari and you have to tick off the big 5 and we have to go and find this. And you kind of rushing around trying to find the animals and tick off those boxes, as opposed to taking a step back, slowing down and spending time with the animals that you are finding, and getting to see that interaction and enjoy the nature and the wilderness. Get to know your guide. There's less pressure on your guide to try and find those animals. And yeah, we are seeing a big shift in that, and people wanting to spend more time, which is fantastic. And so yeah, applaud you again for sticking to it.
Yeah, I always say if you really just want to see the big five, just go to a nice safari park close where you live. You don't have to battle
Yeah,
with jet lag. You save a lot of money and you take off what you have to take off. But
yeah,
a, a trip to Africa is just more, I believe, than just taking off the animals.
mm,
And a zebra is going to be black and white and black even tomorrow morning if you
mm-hmm,
don't see it. So take that FOMO a little bit out of it, but not the
yeah,
excitement, And I
mm,
said it's not. I was always criticized that slow safari is no excitement. It's boring. You do that because you don't have any animals, but it has nothing to do with that. It's, as I said, I love to wake up early and go for a morning hike with the Maasai, or
mm,
stay out there in the car still for 2 hours, surrounded by whatever 100 elephants. I think that's amazing, but just not overly communicated and explained, and I don't need to hear every 5 minutes everything of the digestion system of
yeah,
any animal, and
yeah,
this is that bird and that. It is nice to get a good idea about it, but I think sometimes to be silent and just to listen and just be there. And you can have a nice
take it in.
drink out there. We have
Mm-hmm,
fantastic coffee boxes. We give sundowner boxes. I mean, you should feel happy and giggling. And
yeah,
I also think safari sometimes is too serious
yeah,
because it's so rich. It's so like
mm,
you need to know everything about these animals. Like it's vacation. Don't forget that
yeah,
the British call it holidays, holy day. So
mm,
can we just bring the celebration back into it and have fun?
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
important.
Very important, very true, very important. And yeah, like I said, when I was there, we felt that I remember sitting at a waterhole. It was on the little Chem Chem side. It was midday, which is typically not a great time to be out on a game drive, but actually the amount of wildlife at that waterhole was phenomenal. And we just sat there for an hour, 2 hours, just taking it all in and watching what was coming down. And as you say, surrounded by elephants and giraffe and buffalo and everything else. It was phenomenal. And yeah, we are getting more of that. It is something we chat to our guests about. And I think this is why I feel Chem Chem and Stanley Safaris is so aligned in that sense, and that's why we love sending our guests your way. Um, Feedback is always very positive. The service, the family feel to it when people arrive in there. The experiences that you guys offer is phenomenal, and I'm glad you stuck with it and you didn't listen to the critics and you kept pushing through. I think that's very important, and I'm
Thank you.
glad you've come through and now seeing the rewards from that. And as you say, many more people are using this buzzword of the slow safari, and take full credit for that. So Fabia, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you to you and your team for always looking after our guests so well. We do love it. We try and include every single itinerary to Tanzania. We try and include Chem Chem, one of the properties in an itinerary, just because I do think it is so special and so different, and where safaris should be at. So yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for trusting us. I know it's a big trust, and you rely on our execution,
Yeah,
because you promised the guests to have a great safari. So we take that very serious, because honestly, in the world we are in, and I know it sounds maybe a little bit spoiled, but having a bad vacation is really something bad.
mm,
So
yeah,
I always try to do everything we can that the guest, doesn't matter how difficult the safari started or whatever happens, that they can enjoy their time fully and leave recharged with good energy back home.
yeah. No, and we do. We get that feedback from every single guest we've sent there. So you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. So please keep it up. And thank you.
Thanks for joining me. I hope that gave you some insights as to why we love the Chem Chem Lodges so much. In the next episode, I speak to a mentor and great friend of mine, Bex and Lovo from African Bush Camps.